how did you find sales, or how did sales find you?
Good question. I guess it's a good way to start the pod. Sales, bro. When I was young, I like most people, I didn't know what the heck I was gonna do. And the first time I ever heard the term sales, like I didn't even know what the heck a sales career role was. So what the heck is that even? I was working at the Bay, which is like a department store, and I was in the linens section. So I was a kid, like retail sales for linens, bed sheets, pillows, stuff like that. And then the guy that works in my department, he was selling mattresses, and so he was like the first uh, experience I got of, oh, this is what a salesperson is, a mattress salesperson. And then he told me he's making like 80 grand a year, and this was like back in 2012, and he'd been selling mattresses for like 15 years. I'm like, do you have to go to school for that? Like, how are you making 80 grand a year selling mattresses? He's like, yeah, I'm in sales, man. And I was just like, so I was like, I didn't know what that was. I'm like, okay, interesting. And then I worked like a couple labor jobs. I worked at a pizza shop. I worked at a golf course. And this is like after high school. And so 4 years went by where I was just a blue collar worker. And then one day I was like shoveling some shit, literally shoveling some shit. And my back tweaked, and like my lower back vertebrae, it was like a slip disc. And then I'm like, ah, shit, I need a desk job. And so I started applying at like call centers, and I ended up getting an outbound call center role, selling internet. And there was like a 2 week process of me getting onboarded, ramped up. One of the biggest companies here in Canada, Shaw, which is now merged with Rogers.
My
And
company, mate.
Shaw, that's a dad joke right there, bro. There you go.
Represent.
There you go.
Continue.
So I got a job at the tele sales role. It was outbound sales, and first 2 weeks of training, it was just like shit. I remember I called my friend because they were doing role plays in front of like a group of 20 people, and I was just like stressed because I felt like I was an immigrant. I had like a lisp. I didn't speak the greatest English, and I was like, I got to speak it for 20 people and try to sell them something. And I remember like the nervous shocks, the nerves I would get trying to do a role play for like that stuttering and everything. And I called my friend right after. I was like, bro, I hate this job so much. I suck at it. I'm gonna quit. Da 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 da. And I called my best friend. And I told him that. He's like, bro, it's all good. You just gotta do what you gotta do. Motivated me. And then like fast forward 6 months, I became one of the top reps in that company, and I was like 20-ish years old, making 60K a year, doing sales, outbound sales. And I was just like, I learned that like I'm just freaking talking to people and giving them what they want. And funny story, when I was younger, I wanted to be like a therapist so I could talk to people. And now I'm again closing therapy, baby.
I love that, mate. Yeah, that should be your fucking slagging. Oh my god, closing therapy. If
Closing
that isn't the name
therapy.
of an offer, I don't know what is.
Bro, too many closing offers out there, but someone you guys take it.
Oh, okay, so that's how you got into the world.
Yeah.
And how long were you doing that for? Like, how long did you stay in the call center doing like outbound dialing before you
Yeah. I
transitioned?
did it. I did it for a year, and I was good at it, and I enjoyed it, and I could have climbed the corporate ladder. It was a big company, and I, could have kept going up. And it was like a sick building, had a sick view downtown, Vancouver Mountains, ocean view. Um, but it just got boring. People were like, all they do is go to the bar after work. They go drink, they party. Some people doing freaking blow and everything. I'm just like, that's not my vibe, man. I got big goals. I got big dreams. Before that, I was a valet. And so I drove like Rolls Royces, Lamborghinis, and all these like cool cars. And I knew if I just climbed the corporate ladder, bro, I'm 20 years old. I got a lot of life to live. I got to do something different. So I did that for a year. And then my brother started an agency, and he was like in 2017. he saw that I was a good salesperson. I'm like, and then he's like, yo, Wahaj, I'm starting this business. You want to sell for me? I'm like, I'll take a 2 week long vacation. So I get paid while I'm working with my brother. And then after those 2 weeks, I decided to quit. And everyone there was like, what? You're making good money. Why would you quit? I'm like, bro, this is not the life for me, you know? And so then I quit and then I started working with my brother. And so then we started growing his agency, and this was like local lead gen for dentists and lawyers. And so I started doing B2B sales, and this was a lot of outbound work as well, where I would build like databases on LinkedIn, scrape all this data manual before any of the softwares we have now, and then just dial for dollars again. My first 2 months, I think I closed like 4 deals, and then I got reoccurring on those deals. And then what happened afterwards was like 2018, that's when like info products were kind of getting a little bit more in the know. Yeah, exactly. And my brother's mentor, who initially taught him to do local lead gen, had a SEO course. And then my brother specialized in like Google ads. And then people in that course wanted to learn Google ads too. So then he taught people that, and then he launched his offer. It was like 4 or 5K, something like that. And then I became the first closer for that product. And that was my journey or transition from like regular sales to then high ticket sales.
Okay. And when you got into the agency side of thing, it was mainly B2B, right?
Yeah.
You were focusing on it and you were hitting the outbound. How did that company, because today it's a bit of a beast, how did it scale? What was the tipping point when it went from being like, oh, this is kind of like a nice little family business, me and the brother are just kind of like doing some
Yeah.
stuff, to like, holy shit, we got something here?
Yeah. So no, so that agency was like a local lead gen agency. It's not the same agency we have today. It definitely evolved, but it was like our bread and butter first. Then we did the info launch, and then that became our main focus of growing the info. And that agency offer grew to like 8,000 students. And then we had like a product tier of 5K, 10K, 25K. And this ran up till like 2022. And this was like, at one point we were the top affiliate, like the number one affiliate for Go High Level. We were in talks with Go High Level for getting equity
Fuck.
because we were driving. We were the first offer owner in info that would be their affiliate, and so they like saw that we were driving this much traffic, and then their business model became create something for info so that it's their back end service. And we were getting paid so much in affiliate commissions. I think it was like 100K a month reoccurring revenue just from Go High Level.
How did
And
that
this
happen?
might,
No, that's a story we got to touch into. How did that scale into that?
um, like that info product, we were building it for like a year, 2 years, and then we cracked like YouTube ads. Um, and then we just grew the team really fast. Um, like we had like 8 reps, setters, and everything. At the peak, it was doing like 2.6 million a month. So it was like and
Let's go.
and I was the first closer, and I saw everything. I helped build it from scratch. It was me, my brother, and my brother's partner, and then just like started growing. And it was like prime time, everything. Info wasn't big. People weren't running ads for info. No one knew info really. And so timing was obviously a big thing. And we were in an agency offer teaching Google ads specifically, which was like a new thing as well. And so a lot of timing, and then obviously huge credits to my brother and his partner, where they were just like really good leaders and drivers. And we just capitalized on that opportunity. Pretty sick. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so
So,
the info grew obviously, and then we became the top affiliate because our like back end service was behind Go High Level structure, and this was like Go High Level early days. But yeah, he didn't take the equity deal because the cash was too good and we were doing other things. So like the focus wasn't long term play like that, which is a lesson for us.
Yeah, fair. That would have been a heck of a thing.
Yeah,
Equity and go high level, man. Shit. But you live and you learn, don't we?
100%.
How long did it take to scale to, like you said, at the peak you were doing, was it two point
2.6.
2.6 a month?
Yeah.
How did like how long did it take you to hit that number?
I, I don't remember exactly, maybe like 3 years. It was, oh yeah, okay, this is what happened. Um, 2018 we launched and then we ran it up. We were doing really good, making good money. COVID happened, shit hit the fan, but then we
Mm.
just like pumped it even harder because everyone was online, everyone's getting paid money. So it was that COVID money that ultimately brought us to that like $2.6 million mark. But before that, we were like, 1.2, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 mil. So we were like making good money. But COVID was like the catalyst to get us to that point. And then at the same time, we were also like, we knew how to launch and scale an offer. And so we became the back end and we started publishing other offers like an Amazon offer and Airbnb offer. And all of those during COVID times, we were on a monthly basis, we were doing like 6.3 collectively, like across all the
Shit.
offers that we launched.
And how many
And that's
offers were you running at that time?
so there's an agency offer, two Airbnb offers, Amazon offer, a Kindle publishing offer, which I still run. So there was like five main offers. Yeah. And all of them were like 8-figure businesses. One of them was seven.
You had to have one, just one smaller guy,
Yeah, we
still
had some
massive.
failures too. We had some failures too. Like we launched a contractors offer for B2B. That one did max like 50K. A few others I can't remember, to be honest. There was like a mindset one that we didn't do. Oh, there was a fitness offer that we crushed too, but that's a different story. Um, yeah,
So how did you not how did you what did you see the difference between, because I know not every offer is going to be the boomer, right? Like you said, you had some that didn't take off, that were like
yeah,
50K and then just kind of plummeted, or they never took off anyway.
yeah.
What is the key differentiator that you've seen for an offer to be able to actually scale, and the ones that kind
Yeah.
of just plateau and stay stuck?
Obviously, like you got to see what hot offer is hot right now in the marketplace. If there's the rule of life is like if someone else can do it, you can do it. If there's one person in the world doing it, you can do it, right? So with offers, it's like if there's a hot offer out there, we can replicate it. And so what we would do is we would find hot offers in the marketplace and then find like an influencer or an expert and then build the sales team and marketing engine behind them. Now, like when we went like outside of our vertical, which our vertical was like BizOp, and it's like on Amazon, on Airbnb, on Go High Level Agency, it's like a platform based. When we
Mm.
went outside of that, like the contractor offer, for example, first of all, it's a different vertical because it's B2B, but then it's also not really platform based. And then it's like contract, and it's not necessarily BizOp, you know? So it's like we went into too many, we diversified too far, and those are where like the failures happened. And the reason why the things succeeded was because the person that we partnered up with, like the expert, they were a true expert and they were like dialed in to focus on this one thing. They actually cared about what they were doing. We had another e-com partner that we partnered up with, and e-com was huge back then, like Shopify. But it didn't work out because the guy didn't care. Like it wasn't his main focus. He was just wanted to make money for the sake of making money, not really like expert trying to coach people. So those didn't necessarily work out just because it requires we need a lot from them, and we're gonna push, like our team is a solid team, and when we partner up with someone like yo, it's do or die, it's ride or die type of thing. And so when you're not like going to war with that person and they're like, oh, I'm trying to live a lifestyle business, it doesn't work out.
I got you. So it really came down to A, staying in your vertical, but B, putting your stock into the right horses, I guess, right? Like making
Yeah,
sure that the founder was
yeah,
actually someone that wanted to take it all the way. And I think Matt Ryder touched on that as well, where he did some work with I think it was Russell Brunson and his mastermind event, right? And he was with him for like 7 months,
Yeah.
but everything was set and it should have scaled well, but at the same time, it was that exact same thing. It wasn't the main thing, so it never got to where it
Yeah.
really could have if it was the main thing, right?
Yeah. Funny story about that. I was speaking on stage at TNC Traffic and Conversions, and their team, ClickFunnels, saw me speak there, and the team reached out, and like ultimately I didn't get the contract, but it was like, holy shit, I might get this contract. And then turns out I met Matt Ryder later, and he told me he got the contract. I'm like, oh shit, okay, no wonder I didn't get it, eh? It was this guy. Snipe my client.
The snipers will snipe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And now you've come across, right? And how many offers now have you scaled?
Of our own, like the ones that we owned or have like equity in, or just like in general?
Both. I think both cool would be a nice number.
Total, what would you call scale?
Okay, well, here, let's do this. How many offers have you linked up with, and how many of them have taken off? I think that'd be a cool contrast.
Okay. Our success rate in terms of like scaling people is pretty high. When we published offers, like when we took equity, I think it was like 60-70%, like of them hitting minimum 7 figures.
Sick.
So like past 500K a month.
Sick.
Yeah.
Okay. And how many of those had you done up till this point now? Because I know you've worked with quite a few. How many have you scaled to that? Even like the 400K mark past.
Yeah.
Like that's I think where some, at least from what I've seen, I feel like that's the threshold where some kind of like owner operators themselves can kind of, if they're good, they can kind of get to that point by themselves if they do things right and they're not an idiot and they know some sales and they know the systems. But I feel like getting past that is really where they tend to struggle. I mean,
Yeah, it's like, yeah, the barrier, the ceiling for most people, I would say like 150K. Because you can get with like a short form funnel, IG funnel, you can get to 100K, 150K, but then shit breaks. With organic, you can get to 150K, but it won't last. Ultimately, like in order for you to scale past that, you need to crack paid ads. You need to have a solid sales team, and you need to be able to like treat creatives or marketing on the fly, like with high volume. And you need to do that long enough to then crack it and then push really hard once you do crack it. And so a lot of people, like, they want to scale slow because they're like, oh, I want to be prepared for this. But when the time's right, especially with media buying, when the time's right, you have like this window of opportunity to like just pump the shit out of that ad and show it to millions and millions. And so you have to do it and you have to push, and then you have to like just find solutions on the sales side, on the efficiency side, which is what we're kind of doing right now with one of the offers that we're working on. It's like we have the infrastructure in place, we have the chess pieces, but we got to push hard. And once we hit that, like the metrics that we need to for the ROAS, then we just spend the money, and you got to be okay with spending the money without knowing for sure that it's going to come back.
How does that feel when you're at that spot, right? You're at that turning point and you're like, I know that this can pump. It's just time to spend the money. How does that conversation go with a business owner? Be like, I need you to put the fucking money up for ads.
Yeah. Luckily, like the business owners that we work with, they trust us with like our intuitions, our experience. Like we end up going into these business deals when there's a good relationship. And so they'll trust our instinct, but they'll also hit their limitations sometimes in terms of like the ad spend. But it's all logical, it's like where it's a scientific process in determining like, hey, this is what's going to happen because this is what is happening. And now it's only about just tweaking it. So it's like, if it's a good business owner, they understand and then they'll do it. And scale, it's not like you go from spending 2K a day to 10K a day. You go week over week, like 2K, 4K, 6K. And if the KPIs and metrics are like hitting and they're maintaining, it's like, okay, perfect. We've done what we were supposed to do.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And when you're coming in and you're like having a team, right? And you're building a team from the ground up, what is it that you look for? Like, how do you scale a team to be able to meet that on the time frame? Like you said, when an ad's pumping.
Yeah. Um, how, like in terms of salespeople?
Well, just in terms like when you, well, yeah, in terms of salespeople, but also the systems, the processes. Like you said, stuff breaks. How do you
Yeah.
scale something like that when the ads are pumping and you need to just have the people to take the calls?
Yeah. It's like you, so back to our first offer when we were like launching and scaling, hitting our first $1 million months and then $2 million months, it happened very quickly. Um, and the founders, like my brother and his partner, what they would always remind us is like imperfect action is one of the most important things. And then you're building the rocket ship on the way up. Like you can't freaking just build a rocket ship that you feel like is going to go past the stratosphere. You just do it on the way up because that's the only time that you'll have to actually do it. You know,
Yeah.
otherwise, like resources get wasted, people's time get wasted. Like, eh, yeah, when you know it's ready, like you just gotta go hard and push for it. And then what happens is your infrastructure is built and you've seen, the stratosphere once, and maybe you go back down a little bit to Earth's orbit, but you can go back up once you then fix the constraints and the bottlenecks, and then fix the system then, and then we go back up.
And what do you see as the most constraints holding someone back? If you said that the average, ceiling is kind of that 100, 150K for someone by themselves, when you're coming
Yeah.
in and you're partnering up, what are those like quick things that you're looking at to be like, what can we adjust real quick here to see the wins?
Yeah, it's like usually at that point it's they don't have enough like insights on data to know exactly like what the shit that's breaking is, or if it's not a data issue, then it's going to be a people issue. Um, so ultimately, it's like bringing in the right people. Then one good closer can change an entire business. Like an A player closer, if you're really freaking good and you get a closer like that into your company, he can start making like 300K, 400K for the company. Maybe you put like two setters around this person and you optimize the shit out of his calendar so he's speaking to the most qualified people. Now it's like that person, just that one person can do 300, 400K in revenue for you. And then you have some, other closers to manage all the other lead flow. So it's like you don't have just no availability or whatever, but three closers can take you to like 600, 800K if you wanted it to, if it's like super efficient. And obviously if the offer allows you to, and they have a higher ticket product or whatever. If you're trying to do that with like a 2K, 3K product, it's going to be a volume game. So you need like tiers of products. You need different, 5K, 20K, 10K, all that stuff.
And I guess like in that, right? You said that. Well, how do you prefer to scale your teams? Do you prefer to keep them lean with the sales guys? Because I've been in teams that do both, right? Where
Yeah,
they're doing say 500K a month, but there's nine
yeah.
closers.
Nah, it's always lean, man. Because here's the thing, right? You want to make sure they're making good money, and nine people doing 500K, it's like the management uh, burden is much higher than keeping three freaking really solid people, you know? And those people can start running on autopilot so you can start doing other things for the sales team. Maybe you refine the setters, maybe you fix the CRM, maybe you improve your data, because those 2, 3 closers can handle a lot, and they won't go out and look for other things because now you have crazy retention because you're getting them paid well. So it's like initially you might go wide, but then ultimately you want to go build taller or whatever.
Okay. Build it tall. Come on, boys. Build it tall.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I guess for yourself, right? Because you're kind of spread across multiple things. How do you manage your time? Like, how do you actually divvy up your time so you give the energy and the love to each one?
Yeah. I like
Do you have a
every
life?
No, I try to be balanced, you know. But at the end of the day, when you're at war, you're at war. You got to do what you got to do. If it's, going out to a dinner 3 hours away, coming back at 1 a.m. and then waking up at 7 a.m. because your son, keeps you up all night or whatever. Like that's and jump on a podcast and run a sales meeting right before. Like you got to do that. I could have been like, yo, let's reschedule, but then I got to do it sometime later. But yeah, it's like, especially sales leadership, it's like you're in the people business, and people take time. They take a lot of energy. And so going back to your other question, like how do you actually build a team? When I look at building a team, I want to build a team that I get energy from. So it doesn't feel like I'm doing work. I'm building this team, right? This all-star team, this A team that I want to give more energy to, because when they grow, when they get paid, when they see the results that they want to see, I'm like, okay, shit, I'm fulfilling their life, and they're now it's like I get fulfilled doing that. And that's where like leadership is very important. It's like a selfless thing versus closing very selfish. It's like closing me, me, me. I gotta close it. I gotta make my money. I gotta make my commissions. I gotta make my bonus. I'm not gonna teach anyone anything that I know, because now it's gonna be my competition. Versus sales leadership is like the complete opposite. I'm gonna give them everything, and I hope that they're showing up for themselves so that they can get what they want, and then I'll get my reward, which is the fulfillment of seeing that person grow. Yeah, so I built teams around vibes. If we're not having fun, freaking making money, bro, who the hell cares about the money? You know?
I think that's really important too, because you kind of hit a nail on the head, right? When you are building a team and you're around an environment where you're like, man, these people are awesome. This is a really fun place. You're energized when you get off of a good sales call with like the boys, and you're like, man,
Yeah.
this is going somewhere. I guess when it's the other side though, when it's you jumping on and you feel like it's a drain, you know what I mean? You're like, man, I'm
Yeah.
giving everything and I'm getting nothing, you know?
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
know when that balance is? Do you stop it? Do you just reset the team? Or like, how do you fix that when that's the issue?
Um, it depends, right? Like that never has really happened. The way that like I've personally built teams and cultures, but there can be like some sour apples. And so yeah, you just have to like get really good at managing that, but you also have to maintain leverage on those people then. Meaning like if that person is making all the money for you, then you have no leverage. So make sure you're not in that position where you have to keep someone like that who's, like lame, sucking your soul, like a bad client or a bad rep or whatever. So you want to always have people in the pipeline.
Okay, so that's the answer. Make sure you don't, I guess, just have all your eggs in one basket without
Yeah,
escape pods, if you will.
yeah, yeah. But sometimes you also get like in management, you sometimes get too big or big enough where the dynamic changes sometimes, and that's something that you have to learn how to adapt, especially when as a leader you're all for the people type of person. But sometimes like those dynamics can change when okay, it's business, and you have to make difficult decisions, and it might not be in the best interest of the rep, but it's in the best interest of the company. But you just have to like I've learned a lot of tough leadership lessons, and hopefully I don't have to learn those lessons again, but I had to learn it in order for me to become a better leader as well. Yeah.
Like what? Can you give me an example of one of those tough lessons you had to learn?
One story is like the company. So after we made good money, we, COVID started dying down or whatever, and the money started to kind of go lower and lower. And this was like everyone's getting paid really well before. We brought in big teams, blah, blah, blah. We had high overheads. Everyone's getting paid because we're making a lot of money. But then we started making less money, and then we're still paying high salaries and commissions and bonuses. And so there was like, I was the manager and there was leadership, and they're like, hey, Wahaj, we need to change comp for the sales reps because they're getting paid too much. Like that was the sentiment. We need to cut down costs, otherwise the company's not going to survive. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I got to do what we got to do. They are making too much, 40K a month, whatever, for like layup sales. And then we came into the meeting and we just like, yo, we're changing comp, we're lowering it because you guys are getting paid too much. Like that was pretty much the sentiment of how the message was delivered. We try to do it in like a tactical way, but we did that. And the lesson or what happened afterwards was the team like unionized pretty much, and they shut off their calendars. And this is when we're spending like 20K a day. And so 20K a day went to this one day and another day. And they pretty much went on strike, and then we had to shut the media buying down, and then that messes up the whole algo. Because then, when you start sending traffic to a dead end, it's like, what the heck? I'm never sending people to you again. And then it was just like a lesson that I think we probably lost like 300K. And then 6 months later, the company had to shut down because like we couldn't get out of that loss. And then the relationship with the reps also got tarnished because, hey, they felt like I was personally as a leader coming in from a completely wrong angle where it ended up becoming us versus them. And I guess like one of the most challenging parts for me personally was that these relationships that I built over time, this energy that I put in to develop all these people, within one decision, all of that was gone. And then I started to doubt my leadership skills, my decision-making skills, until like a few months later, I recalled every little step that came after that decision that happened before that decision. And I like went through it multiple times in my mind to be like, how could I have done it differently so that the business achieves their goal, but also the reps feel like I took care of them as well. And so it was like a $300,000 lesson. Company shut down. Personal relationships with the reps got tarnished or like, burnt a little bit. And not my ego, but my like confidence in leadership got little chink in the armor. So yeah, really, really important lesson. And those are the leadership lessons that you gain a lot of insights from, and it improves how you look at everything. So I'm definitely a better leader for it, but at the time it felt like shit.
And if you could go back, what would you have done differently?
Deliver the message different, increase the timeline, like create a timeline of that change and like tier it down, have way more leverage. Like besides those reps, I didn't have any leverage to bring in more reps. So that's like a big thing. Over communication over anything, like collaborate, communicate, find a solution that works for everyone. And again, like a tiered timeline structure to make changes. But yeah, those were the lessons.
I can see that.
Yeah.
And I gotta ask, how much was their comp getting cut by?
It was like from 10-11% to 7%.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's like kind of a 30% cut.
Yeah.
Around that.
They still had like bonuses to get back to those numbers, but it was more so like the delivery, like we're doing this now, these are the numbers and it doesn't make sense for the company. Yeah, it was just and they obviously had a lot of leverage because they were like they unionized and they shut down their calendars and we were just like, holy shit,
I feel that. I remember the first time I had to do a restructure myself. I was running a door-to-door team, and I had just opened up my own company, right?
Yeah.
So the guys have been going. Basically, we're working with another company, and I was leading the team. I was running the company, but it wasn't my company, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, it's time we do this ourselves, boys. And then there was that conversation where I was like, all right, your pay is getting cut by 25%.
Oh shit.
Because we got to do it. It's one of those things that has to happen for this to make sense.
Yeah.
And I had kind of 5 really solid guys with me at that time.
Yeah.
And it was a very hard conversation And like these were people that were like living in my house.
Oh
Like they were
shit.
like I created a freaking bond. So, the leverage was high.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was like these guys were crushing it. And it was like, thankfully, I was able to mitigate it in a way where we only lost one guy.
Mm.
But there was definitely a point where they unionized against me. And it was like, all right,
Yeah. It's
let's have a
tough when your boys
conversation.
turn on you. And it's all about the money. It's always about the money.
It is.
Even
And you know what? It's a funny thing, right? Because it's like, I understood where they were coming from,
yeah.
and I just had to figure out a way, just like I'm sure you now know multiple times over.
Yeah.
It just big about figuring out a way that it actually makes sense for them, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if people like you, they'll usually do things
Yeah.
if it's delivered well.
Yeah. Exactly right. It's like, yeah, yeah, that's it. Ultimately, like in those situations, you have to take extreme ownership because that's the only thing that you can change and you can't change anyone else. Otherwise, you'll never learn from that lesson. Always blame someone or something or a group of people and have that like, limiting belief ingrained in you next time you work with like sales reps or a specific type of client. But when you can change your frame around it, and you can, own the shit that you fucked up on, then you'll be way better for it. And yeah, you'll be a much better leader.
100%. So now when you're looking at teams, right? And when you're scaling up teams, how do you approach that these days? Right? Because obviously that had a big impact on you.
Uh-huh.
Is it a lot more like pre-framing it in there? Like I know we talked about, having the open, honest conversations, the dialogue, but is there
Yeah.
things that you're doing now to make sure you don't get over leveraged in the first place? And if so, what are those things?
Yeah, you have to set like with any agreement now, I set like boundaries. And so those boundaries are set because we don't know what's going to happen after a certain point, you know? And when you have these boundaries and you reach one of those boundaries, you have to then, the conversation is open because you've already set that, hey, this is the boundary. Once we get there, we're going to have a conversation around this and we're going to do what makes sense at that point. So, for example, it could be, let's say, a client. Let's say in the beginning, we partner up with this client 70-30. They get 70, they get 30, we get 70 because we're going to do the entire offer launch. And then, we're going to run the ads. We're going to spend our money. We're going to build a sales team. You're just going to be the face. Let's say 1 year later, we're doing 1.5 million. And now they're doing more work. We're also doing work, but they're doing more work. Maybe they're doing fulfillment. Maybe they're managing more people, whatever the case is. That's gonna be a boundary reach where if that deal remains the same, there's gonna be like resentment starting to build, and if it builds for too long, then shit can break, especially depending on how that person handles those types of emotions. Um, but if you have a boundary, you're like, hey, at this point, once we reach it, we're gonna have a conversation, and if that person is in a good headspace and we can have a good, honest conversation and something that's fair, then great. It's going to be another long relationship until we hit the next layer. But if it doesn't make sense at that point, then you can also like, all right, we're done this deal. Let's wrap it up clean. We're good. You figure it out now. Because then it didn't work for them or it didn't work for us. And at least you can still do that professionally.
So
That's like
just
one of the,
really,
yeah,
no, go for it.
that's like one of the biggest learning lessons and setting up agreements is having those boundaries. Um, yeah, and yeah, time, yeah, boundaries.
So with those boundaries, were you like, would it typically be a 6 month boundary, a 12-month boundary? Did it vary depending on the deal? Like some
Yeah,
guidance on it.
it could be timeline specific, or it could be like target specific, or it could be people specific. Like for example, there's a boundary you have right now with the client where if we have a sales team of 10 people, the percentage might change, but we have to have a conversation. So let's say I do a rev share deal sales team. It's like, hey, I'm going to take 20% of rev of whatever you generate. And this deal is up till 500K. And covers 10 reps. Okay? Because then if I have to bring a sales lead in, and we're maybe under a certain amount of revenue, it might come into my profit margin, which I necessarily maybe don't want to, or whatever the case is. Like, okay, if he tells me, hey, Wahaj, you got to hire 20 people right now at the same deal structure, it's like, okay, that's not what we agreed to. So it's like you make it so that they don't have these crazy asks. And if things go outside of these boundaries, like, okay, shit has to change because the economics of the deal changed.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's more just make sure you're, I guess, kind of safeguarding it, right? Like, not just having it be the wild, wild west, but be like, hey, let's have conversations along the way. These are the boxes we agreed to. When it comes outside of this, we need to chat again. we need to discuss.
Exactly. Like in the beginning, for example, we had this offer that we're doing like webinar sales. So it was like an auto webinar. There would be a 2K buyer coming in automatically. We would pair it up with the setter and then a closer. So if a closer is getting these calls on their counter, they're getting a 2K buyer that's qualified by setter. Freaking highly qualified, right? So when we launched this offer in the beginning, we were giving 10% commissions. But it doesn't make sense to receive the same comms when the buyer is so freaking good, right? So over time, we've now got it down to like 6.5, and we're probably going to go lower to like 4, 5 maybe. And the reason for that is like OTE ultimately doesn't change. The comm changes because like there's so much more now involved to getting that person to that call, right? All the marketing, all the sales, all the selling, all the systems, everything. But like you structure the comp so that they can still make really good money. But now also the leverage is on our end because we've created this entire system, and any closer will love to have these deals there. Like if you know you're going to have a freaking 95% show rate and you have the opportunity to close 60% of your deals. Yeah, it's insane. 4% is like, holy shit, I want to do that all day long for anyone else out there.
And I think that's really important what you said, right? It's not that when you're going in, at least in that scenario, you're not cutting comp to give the person more work for the same or less money. It's just like, hey, it's gotten to the point your role is becoming easier, so intense, it's a less work. So we're just going to make sure that is aligned with what you're getting.
Yeah, and it's like the benefit of being early is you get the comp of being early. But after a year in that role, you're not early anymore. You've already actually reaped the rewards of being early. But now the adjustment has to happen. And it's a hard conversation to have if you don't have a boundary. But if you do, then, okay, you knew it was coming. Like you knew your time was coming where the comp changes. Like everyone's been part of sales companies where like there's a fire sale. And for the next 3 months, you're going to make freaking insane money as long as you push hard. But that period isn't going to last forever. And you know that. But if you don't know that and you know, the expectation is it's going to last forever. And then you're like, oh shit, you're screwing me over. Oh no, we didn't have that conversation. My bad. I screwed up as a leader, you know?
No, that's totally fair, man. If I go back and I look at my very first offer that I joined, we were doing 6K, 10K, and 42K masterminds, and we were getting full comms on everything.
Oh shit! There you go.
Yeah, full comms on everything. It was great, and we had a webinar, did a challenge, and things were pumping, man. It was my first month as a closer. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the next month, they're like, yeah, the commissions on masterminds are halved.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that's what that is. Just no questions, just like, boom. And this was for an Airbnb offer, so they were doing what we call bolt-ons. So they'd sell someone a unit, guaranteeing we're going to find the property for you.
Crazy.
And we were getting full comms on those as well.
Oh, it's that. And they have like fulfillment costs and everything. Yeah.
Exactly. So it makes no sense, right? Like at the beginning, the structure actually didn't make sense. They were losing money on those. Yeah. But they did it because they wanted to have, the deals coming in. But the issue that me and every closer in that company had at the time was, well, there's no boundary. You didn't set a boundary. My contract says every cash collected is this. So now exactly. I'm not breaking it. You're breaking it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Exactly. Exactly.
I could see if you had a boundary in there, that conversation would have been very different.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And reps will like, they know that logically it makes sense, but they're reps, and you're not obligated to freaking do what's best for the business all the time. Like you have to protect your personal interests, and I get it. But that also, like, reps will on purpose be like, screw that, I'm not doing this change. You gotta pay me what you promised me, and they'll give them that friction so that if it's a weak business owner, they're like, oh shit, okay, I'll let you guys have this comp for another 3 months, just because they're so afraid of that conversation, versus like losing that rep because they don't have the leverage, right? It comes back to leverage. So if you add the leverage, then um, yeah, you'll be able to do what you have to do, what's best for the business. And sometimes what's best for the business isn't what's best for the rep, you know? But if it actually is over a longer period of time, because if a rep is looking for a long-term home and the rep business owner is doing what's best for the business, they'll have a home longer, versus having to hop off another offer. Because back to my story, shit hit the fan, the offer shut down, everyone lost their money, you know? So you gotta have that like future freaking, I don't know. It's,
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. And I think that when now if you put yourself in a rep's position, right?
yeah.
When they're coming into those conversations, right, and they're starting to maybe they're working with different business owners. You and I both see it a lot in the space where you do deal with some very interesting characters as offer owners, to put it nicely.
Yeah.
How do you have those conversations from a rep side
Yeah.
to the business owner, to the manager, so you can kind of set your own boundaries, but that still makes sense? Like, how would you go about that side of the conversation?
If I was a rep and I was like in the environment right now, number one thing I would do is I would find a team that a leader actually gives a shit about me, you know? Because like a leader will protect your best interests. Like that's what a good leader does, at least. And if you don't have a leader that you feel like, okay, these guys, when shit hits the fan, like they won't care or they'll just like stab me in the back, then if you just trust your instinct with that, and if you don't get good vibes from your leader, like you're probably not safe. And when shit hits the fan or something difficult happens in the business, so as a rep, I would like choose my leaders wisely, and then I would do whatever I could to gain my own leverage. So what is that? It's you build maybe a personal brand, you have a network, you freaking have killer, really good skills, you um, maintain a good relationship with everyone that you work with, you never burn bridges. And so whenever your name comes up, it's like, yo, that guy is solid. You'll be lucky and happy to really have him on this team. So it's like you just gotta be professional in all areas of your life. If you're being a shitbag, and if you're not doing the stuff that's required, like over a long enough time frame, people will know that you're lazy, you don't give a shit, you suck, you burn bridges, you're egotistical, you're highly emotional. It's all like characteristics of a weak person, you know. So always be humble and always like, yeah, always be learning, always be growing. Choose your leaders wisely.
I love that. Choose your weirds. Choose your
Choose your
leaders.
weirdos.
Choose your weirdos, man. You'll be fine. Choose your leaders wisely.
Yeah.
And Wahaj, I guess for people that are now in the space, what are you doing today? What is your sole focus? If a business owner wants to get in contact with you, or if a
Yeah.
rep wants to join a team, like how can you help? What
Yeah.
should they come
So
to you for?
so back to like how we first started. We started with a local lead gen business with me and my brother. And now we have like a info growth agency, where I run the sales agency division of tritongrowth.com. And we also have a media buying division. And then we also have a affiliate management division. And all these divisions, like affiliate management drives essentially free traffic for people, right? If you have an email list and have an offer. Then we have the paid media buying, right? If you need to run YouTube or Facebook, our media buying team has spent like 40 million on YouTube, one of the best YouTube marketing media buying teams in the info product space for BizOp and even other industries. And then we have the sales agency. So when people come to us for services, like they're getting a team that has ran their own offers to 7 and 8 figures and knows these businesses inside and out. And then when they go to one house to get all of that expertise, it's like, it's a breath of fresh air for them. They're not working with like an agency, you know, they're working with partners and owners and people who have ran these businesses. So yeah, I run the sales agency side. If you're a rep, you want to reach out to me, like you can go on my Instagram, Wahaj in the Wild, hit me up. There's an application I'll send you to be in our database of closers. You can follow me on YouTube, Wahaj, Farooqi, putting out some YouTube content for the peeps here and there when I get time. You can find me on this freaking podcast, Closing Authority. With Liam Shaw, my boy. Let's go. If you ain't freaking subscribed, that's a big problem, man. This guy's bringing some of the most fire guests. First of all, he has me. Come on.
This is true.
Then he got all the other big boys that, you should probably do like a mastermind. You put us all in a group chat of sales leaders, sales authority. That'd be pretty sick.
Ooh, yeah. Mate, start collaborating. Some of these episodes get 2-3 different minds on.
Well, 100%, but that'd be sick.
That would be. Well, look, Wahaj, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been really insightful to see from an agency side of things and a management side of things about like the insights of how, the industry has changed, but also how you've kind of changed and adapted throughout that time. So guys, if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you go hit up Wahaj. He has some pretty awesome stuff. If you're a business that's looking to grow, this is your guy. If you're a rep that wants to get placed on a solid offer, hit him up. I think there's more opportunities coming from there. Just don't be shit, Have
don't
some
be
value.
shit, please. Don't be shit. Don't apply if I won't, hit you up back. Be confident in your application.
100%. But guys, like he said, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Drop in the comments who you want to see next.
Let's go. Who do you want to see next?